Alright, what up guys? I wanted to just check in with you and show you how the leveling up is going. So wandering around the volcano and hunting for red dragons is tedious. I'll put it that way. It's tedious. I am not finding a lot of red dragons. But each one I kill is about 2,000 gold, a little bit less. So you can see. And then it's so weird, in the inventory screen, it divides the gold up between the 4 characters, which is not something that ever comes into play. So basically take the gold here and multiply it by 4, and that's how much I actually have. So I'm pretty close to like 80,000 gold. Thing is, I don't even know how much stuff costs. So I went online, can't find a chart anywhere of how much things cost in this game at all, and this is kind of a theme for this game. I cannot find a lot of data online about how this game even works or anything. Some basic guides and maps and stuff to get you through the game, but the people who have done the more in-depth exploration of the code, it's not easy to find on Google searches. They usually end up in some obscure Reddit post. Anyway, I don't know how much the stuff I want to buy costs, and you don't unlock all the best equipment at the store until you've maxed out your level. And I think maximum level is 14, and that has to do either 14 or 15, and that has to do with the bits rather than anything in the original game. Demi-humans like the elf will actually max out at level 9, but I don't know if they will. I don't know that they'll actually cause the store to update or not. So right now what I'm doing is I am just level grinding my fighter, and then I want to go see how much the stuff costs so I can figure out how much I actually need to save up. Like I said, getting the gold is tedious, but I'm going to show you the leveling up process, which is anything but tedious. Well, a little bit tedious, but could be much worse. So anyway, I just leveled up the fighter to level 12. And here we go. Walk in the volcano cave, nail the red dragon with entangle, do a full round of combat, skip over to the fighter, choose the finishing blow, walk out, walk in, entangle, same exact thing. Once you get a good feel for how many hits it takes to kill the dragon, you can kind of maximize efficiency as much as you can. Every once in a while I'll mess up and somebody else will get the kill, but it's no big deal. The elf now has 3 entangle spells before running empty. So once we've killed 3 dragons, we rest, get the entangle spells back up, and go again. I believe that the red dragons are 5,000 XP, just like we established before when we were grinding on the fire giant and red dragon in the other cave. So yeah, this is it. This is the fastest way to level grind. And one thing that makes it even faster, once you've hit level 9 in basic D&D, you only gain 2 hit points per level after that. There's no dice roll and there's no constitution bonus anymore. And so I don't have to sit here and save scum right before the fighter levels up. I just kill dragons until she levels up, and I know she's going to have 86 hit points no matter what I do, so that saves a lot of time. I'm pretty sure there's some save stat hacking guides out there. So if you wanted to do, if you didn't mind safe state hacking, you could just level up your characters even before level 9 and then just use the hex editor to change your hit points to what you want them to be. Because you technically could have just save scummed until you got what you wanted. I just find there's like a slippery slope with cheating where like once I cheated a little bit, then I'm like, it kind of like makes the game feel invalid and then I cheat more. So I tend to just try not to cheat at all. Although save scumming was always part of the original experience of this game for me, so that's why I did the save scumming for the hit points. I also think it's really stupid to roll hit points for a level up. One of my favorite things about 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons is that you could just say, hey, we're just doing averages. I remember it was actually basic D&D. I rolled up a fighter character, and he started off, I rolled really good for his money, so he started off with plate mail armor, and I rolled a 1 for his hit points, and my friend, I was Stuart, I think, was like, yeah, you have 1 hit point. And I'm like, well, this sucks. I'm a fighter with 1 hit point. Must have had to keep my other, like, characteristics rolls as well, so didn't even have a constitution bonus. I was just a fighter with 1 hit point. So yeah, I think that's kind of a dumb thing. This game at least lets you start with a max roll for level 1, which is pretty nice. They did not have to do that at all. That was not part of the original rules, but that is part of 5th edition now, so kind of funny. Some of these ideas began a long time ago and then, you know, found favor more recently. I think I mentioned last time I was recording that the code in this game kind of sucks, and there's an intentional -2 to hit, at least in melee, which I think is awful. My current thinking about, you know, cheating and all that sort of stuff, my current thinking is if I buy my entire team Gauntlets of Ogre Power, I don't think I'd feel guilty about cheating in actual strength 18 for everybody. And then the +2, there's a separate +2 to hit from the gauntlets in this game. That would undo the crappy coding that they decided to do where everybody has a minus to hit. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to buy everybody Gauntlets of Ogre Power. I think I'm going to cheat everybody's strength up to 18. And then I won't feel guilty about anything else that's going on. Just, but I really should have. And I think there's something too, they didn't calculate the stack out correctly either. I was looking through the rules cyclopedia, and so basically there's this after you gain a certain number of levels, your stack out is supposed to go down by 3, I believe. And I guess in this game they did only 2. So there's even yet another nerf. So I really should not feel guilty about cheating back in what I'm supposed to have in the first place. In fact, I think we'll still be at a nerf even after I cheat in strength 18 on everybody. And what that kind of tells me is if you're going to start a new game and try to play it legit, I would seriously just re-roll characters until you had strength 18 on all of them. At the very least, until you have 16. At least with 16, you'll have a +2 to hit and damage. Strength 18, it's a +3 to hit and damage. But yeah, you can feel it. Like your characters miss way too often. Looks like the fighter's gonna level up this go, so. So yeah, is it tedious? A little bit. Could it be a lot worse? Yeah. I did confirm the monsters you kill on the overworld have shared experiences that level up. And the monsters you fight in the cave, it's whoever gets the killing blow gets the XP. I don't know why they set the game up that way. But they did. So as you're wandering the countryside fighting red dragons, all of your characters are gaining XP, but they're gaining it extremely slowly. I'm gonna see how much does a fighter need. Yeah, and it's kind of weird. The next level, she's been having the same number, and I didn't realize that was a thing. It's like almost the exact same XP to next level up as was the last level. So I don't know if that was in the original game, that because it starts off like each level up kind of like jumps up a lot. But I suppose if I'm only gaining +2 hit points per level, it makes sense that the leveling up progression kind of levels off, plateaus, if you will. Anyway, so she needs a couple more levels and we'll go back to the town and see what equipment is available. But just want to show you what level grinding looks like. Looks like this video is about 12 minutes long, or this part, I guess, this clip is 12 minutes long, so about 10 minutes-ish to level up a high-level character using this trick. But yeah, that's gonna be it. I gotta get going on my day, so I'll see you in the next clip. Boom, boom. Alright, hey guys, got my fighter up to max level, so we're gonna go check out the prices in the castle. And I think weapons and armor is where we're going to check out first, and then we'll take a look at the spells. What we got here? I don't have time to waste on you. If you don't want to buy anything, get out and stay out. Okay, so gauntlets of ogre power are 8,750. Yeah, I think... Yeah, okay, and then +3 sword versus +3 sword versus regenerating. It's misleading if it is the normal D&D rules. It's actually a +1 sword, +3 against regenerating monsters, of which I only know of trolls, so I would just get the +3 sword, but actually since swords only do 1d6 damage, you might as well just stick with the +3 spears. I will have to see if my thief can use spears or not, because I can switch her over to a spear. Okay, you notice that there's never anything better than a +1 missile weapon. Alright, and then gauntlets. Yeah, okay, I can afford all that stuff. Armor is the more interesting one. I keep wanting to switch my characters to lighter armor so they can move better. But we're about to get to a point where all the battles are going to be basically in the dungeon, and movement's not a thing in the dungeon. Okay, so we have Ring of Protections, and I believe this 1 armor class and 1 saving throw. Ooh, we're at +3 shields. +3 plate mail, super expensive. So we might not... Let's think about what do we have. We still have normal plate mail. Let me think about that. Normal plate mail would be about the same as +2 chain mail in terms of armor. Okay, we can get everything but the plate mail, no problem. Let's look at the spells though. Alright, wand of fireballs. Interesting. I wonder if I need to max out my elf level before we get any more, because we're missing some stuff here. Or if it's just never sold. I don't know. Okay, so I have a bunch of... Okay, the scrolls of fireball were only worth 500 gold, so I don't know if that was worth carrying around all that time. Probably not. Okay, well we can actually go ahead and do the weapon upgrades now then. We know there's nothing we're looking for in terms of spells at the moment. We'll grind up the elf and see if that does anything. Let's see, we're gonna sell random junk in my inventory. Okay. So we want gauntlets of ogre power. And she already has a +3 spear, so she's good. She's gonna get gauntlets of ogre power and +3 mace. Let's see. Too much stuff. I think I'm gonna drop that staff of healing over here. Save my butt in the pyramid, but let's see if we can do without it. Okay, so +3 mace. And then we need gauntlets for the elf. And then, oh, and then my thief never established if she can use a spear or not. So let's try that first. Alright. Thieves can use spears. Okay. I guess we'll buy the elf a new spear. Alright, so let's make sure we've got our loadout. +3, +1, +3, +1, +3, +1. Okay, and then we can sell the +2 sword then. Now, we still have 42,000 gold. So let's take a look at the armor again. Definitely want the +3 shield. It's the easiest way to get one more bonus. Ugh. Okay. +3 shield. +3 shield. Okay. Now... Negative, armor class -4, armor class -4, armor class -4. So, armor class 0 is considered really hard to hit. So -4 would be an extra -20% to hit on top of that. Now, the thief does need that +3 leather armor. And then... yeah, let's do the +3 leather armor. 7,000. Let's sell the +2, and then take a look at Kitty real quick here. We got armor class 1, which is good for a thief. And then I'm going to try the Ring of Protection, see what that does for her. Alright. Yes, that is armor class. I think it's also a saving throw bonus, so even though technically you're not supposed to be able to wear 3 rings at the same time. The game doesn't know how to check for that. Okay. I'm pretty happy with this loadout at the moment. I need to sell that mace still. Forgot to. I really don't need that wand of lightning either. I'll go drop it over here. Can't remember if these items disappear forever or not. Okay. And then I don't know that we're going to need that weathered vine ever again. But let's leave it alone for now, I guess. Okay. And sell that +2 mace. Alright, and then I guess we'll go ahead and I think that's going to be it for now. Alright, sorry for the quick cut there, guys. So, let's see here. We got all the equipment that we wanted, except we're down 1 ring of protection. Don't really have the money for anything else. But we're, like, busted powerful already, so I'm not too worried about any of that. I did go in and hex edit in that I really do have strength 18 on all my characters now. So, like I mentioned before, that'll be like the one sheet I use, and it'll just kind of level the playing field for, you know, make the game a little bit actually more fair, because it's kind of broken up against me. Since I just saved the game, I'm going to show you what happens if you talk to the Duke right now. I will not tolerate this incompetence any longer. You will walk through the flames and find the caverns of which I have been told, or you will perish in the attempt. The next time I see your faces, they will be before an army or on the end of a pole. Guards, take them away. So yeah, the guards take you out of the castle, and as far as I know, there is no way back into the castle. That means that if you've not purchased all the equipment that you want, that's it. Like, you're not getting it. Hopefully you can loot it somewhere. The Duke forbids you to enter the city. And that's it. You cannot get back into the castle until you go through the volcano and get what you're supposed to get. I'm going to go ahead and load the game though, because you don't need to talk to the Duke at all. And instead we're going to go talk to Vermilion, because he's the person who actually progressed the story. You can just ignore the Duke entirely for the entire game. What I have suspected is true. We are back in time. I'm so happy. You have proven we are amongst the ancient civilizations of the Azkans and the Oltecs. Even though they did not exist at the same time and in the same location, who cares? You have proof. Go and find the ancient cities of the world. Have you noticed the Duke is mad? I have. He locks me in my tower, but I know a way out. I recently found a cat. Good day. Yeah. Yeah, so we're gonna go do the volcano thing. Yahoo! Ha 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 hee hoo! Yeah, everybody is gone completely insane. Yeah, so we're gonna go back to the volcano, finish our leveling up. And then the other thing I wanted to see was that if the elf gets, if she gets one more level, if the rest of the magic spells get unlocked, or if there's just never 4th level spells to buy, which is pretty lame. I remember Ice Storm and Cloudkill being in the game. I'm not sure if Cloudkill is 4th or 5th level. But yeah, anyway, I'll probably just go ahead and cut away here because it's a long walk back to the volcano. And, actually, you know what? We might go overland so we can try out our new Gauntlets of Ogre Power. There we go. Here's a nice Hill Giant and Direwolf to go practice on. So 10 points of damage. 11 points of damage. 8 points of damage. Yeah, we're doing a lot more damage, as we should. And we're hitting a lot more often, as we should have. I should calculate the THAC0 that we should have, the to hit armor class 0, and see, because the amount that we were missing was ridiculous. But again, whoa, what we got here? 5 hairy beastmen. That's a pretty interesting group of enemies. But yeah, just again, remind you of why I did the cheat. The game, ignoring the rules of Dungeons and Dragons, has a flat -2 to hit. Sounds like the level progression to hit modifiers are not coded properly. And then the gauntlets of ogre power don't actually give us 18 strength, even though they're supposed to. So the cheat I implemented just gives me back the 18 strength. And the gauntlets apparently give you a +2 to hit instead of the 18 strength, which undoes the flat negative that we weren't supposed to have in the first place. Just the developers decided. And again, I don't even know who programmed this game. I'll look at the credits. Not a lot of documentation online, but I think most people just assume that they were trying to pad out the game by having people miss. But it's like, that's not how you pad out the game, you know? You don't pad out a game by having the characters in an RPG miss constantly. It's not fun. It's not a good player experience. I mean, basic Dungeons & Dragons already was kind of hard to get into because of how limited your abilities were. You then take that and give an additional -2 to hit on top of everything. Like, it's just not really cool. Alright, so we walked overland back up here. And I've mentioned it before, but I am absolutely impressed with the music in this game. Alright, so I kept saying red dragons are rare, but first encounter I come across, of course, was a red dragon. Oop. Oh, looks like I forgot to rest. I don't have any tangles ready. Yeah, I'm not too worried about it, actually. So, the weird thing about red dragons in basic Dungeons & Dragons is that their breath weapon does an amount of damage equal to their current hit points. And this guy's got 13 hit points, so if he breathes, that's 13 points of damage. Now it's 4 points of damage. Now he's dead. That's kind of a weird thing about basic Dungeons & Dragons. Really do need to rest. But I'm trying to get through here first. Salamander. So my missile weapons should be missing about as much as normal compared to like before I did the cheat. But in melee, we should be hitting a lot more often because it was apparently a -2 to hit in melee specifically, which is really messed up in my opinion. Melee is supposed to be like the best. Like you should hit the most often, do the most damage in melee, else your game is not very well balanced. Nothing to change. Alright, and then I needed to level up the elf to see if we can do... if any more magic gets unlocked. Let's try that first. Yeah, so nice with everybody doing more damage now. Which, again, this is what should have happened when I bought Gauntlets of Ogre for everybody. But they coded it that you didn't get actual... And that's the thing that frustrated me the most. Your character sheet says Strength 18, but you're not actually... you don't actually have Strength 18. And I noticed that even as a kid, and I was baffled by it. Back then, I don't think I had the concept that people would... Well, I don't know. I guess things haven't changed much to me. Why would somebody code it that you looked like Strength 18, but not give you the benefits of Strength 18? I found that incredibly frustrating. And possibly the coders just weren't up to the task of having an item that temporarily changed your stats. But still... kind of pumped about actually having Strength 18 with all these characters. The amount of damage my characters do is pretty awesome. I'm also kind of excited about the graphics I made. I made graphics for each of the 4 characters. I haven't actually put them together into the title screen yet. I think I'm going to do them individually. Of course, you guys will have already seen it, but I think I'm going to do it individually, but if I can get them to look good together as a group, that'd be awesome, because Dungeons & Dragons is about being a group. But if I have 4 videos, I could do the fighter for one, the elf for one, the thief for one. Alright. Oh, monsters are approaching. Oh, the cute little salamander. I should have just done magic missile since I'm this close anyway. As a reminder too, the cheat code I used to change all my characters to Strength 18, you could achieve the same effect by rolling Strength 18. Back in those days, your stats did not go up during play. Didn't matter if you leveled up or anything. Your stats were your stats, and they stayed that way. So if you were a fighter, but you rolled a 10 for your strength, you were a pretty terrible fighter for your entire career. Let's see. Doing the math here, about 8 more dragons. And the elf will gain her level. It's kind of neat. We just go all the way through. The elf is usually able to just kill the dragon after one more, or after a full round. We go through like this. Yeah, anyway. Still some randomness, so sometimes it's not. I'm always curious about some of the design decisions. So much of this game is so well done. Graphics and music are really amazing for that time period, in my opinion. I'm quite curious why they chose Hollow World for the setting. Kind of feels like somebody had a vision, you know, like, oh yeah, let's totally do this Hollow World business. I'm sure the Hollow World box set had just come out or something. There's so much that went into this that is so well done, but then there's elements that kind of just make you think, you know, did they hit the deadline and they had to kind of slap together the rest real quick? I think the elf needs one more dragon. Yeah. We'll save the game because she's still rolling hit points. So we want her to have, what, 54 hit points at least when she levels up, and that's not going to be easy. I think a lot of video games, they had a lot of ideas, and then they came up against the deadline and kind of had to stitch together what they had. Let's see, that's almost good enough. I could lower my standards. 53 is not bad. Nah, let's go 54. Yeah, so yeah, leveling up is definitely faster once you hit name level and your characters only go up 2 hit points at a time. Also, the RNG speed has been really hard for me to figure out. Like, why did I roll the same thing twice there? It seems to get stuck on certain numbers sometimes. And it's not easy to know what to do when it gets stuck. So sometimes I just go and fight a monster in the overworld instead. And sometimes whatever happens during that fight seems to unstick the seed. Weird. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but there's definitely something going on where the RNG, like, it's rolled the dice and it's like, no, that's what I rolled. It's like, okay, but I don't want that number, so let's re-roll. Alright, we'll head back on over here. Got one more hellhound to fight. Alright, we'll save the game again. Got 2 fights worth of RNG. Yeah, I don't quite know enough about the code to know why the RNG seems to get stuck sometimes. Yeah, there we go. I got 54 hit points. Back to the music for a moment. I know I've talked about it before, but yeah, let's fight him. The Genesis was known for having this sort of tinny, kind of fart sounding sound effects. And I really don't know why that is. It feels like people didn't know how to use the sound chip. Because yes, the Super Nintendo has a beautiful sound chip. I'm not going to talk smack about that sound chip. But there's a number of Sega Genesis games that sound awful. But there's a number that sound great. So King's Bounty, for example, the music, it's like blaring. It's like dun, 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 dun. I'm like, okay, I think you guys are proud of your music, but it's like, it hurts my ears. And then the sound effects in that game, you hit the enemy. Yeah, I know I was always saying boom, because that's me, but when you hit the enemy, you hear, like, it's like a fart. It's like, and it's like, okay, you guys did not know how to use the sound chip. But Shadowrun had some pretty darn good music. I mean, both Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis had great music, but the Sega Genesis Shadowrun music was great. I distinctly remember Alicia Dragoon had good music. I think I made some comments about it in that video. I don't know, it doesn't seem like there's any excuse when you have these, games like Dungeons and Dragons and Alicia Dragoon and Shadowrun have like this like head-bangingly good music. I'm gonna need to go do like a deep dive into like which Sega Genesis games have the best music or something. Oh, why am I going? I'm gonna get stuck in the bushes, aren't I? Ugh. Every time I'm like, oh no, it'll be okay. I'll just cut through the bushes. It'll save time. Usually the exact opposite. And if there's no new magic spells to cast, we basically have no reason to go back to the town anymore. So I guess the Duke could throw us out. The one really kind of crazy thing, though, is if the Duke throws you out and then one of your party members dies, and then you save the game like an idiot, you have to trek all the way to the swamp or the jungle, because those are the only two other places where healing happens, like resurrection happens. Okay, so what we got? Stone of Flesh. So Ice Storm's the only one I'm really interested in, really. Yeah, we'll get Ice Storm. So that was true. I did need to level up my elf one more time. Wait, what? Now I'm confused. Level 9, but she can level up again. Okay, I'm quite confused because I thought there was a cap to the elf. Maybe it's just... Boy, I'm super confused. So, in, oof, okay, I gotta explain this because I'm making myself look like a moron, but, so basic Dungeons and Dragons, literally basic Dungeons and Dragons, your characters can only be levels 1 through 3. I could afford that last ring of protection I don't have. Sorry, I got distracted. Who doesn't have a ring of protection? Wait. Oh, this is the green one. Oh, I only got one ring of protection last time. Okay, that's right, I only gave it to the thief. I don't know, gotta rest so we can scribe this thing. Boy, and I can do level 5 spells now, but... gosh. Let me finish buying this stuff, because I'm just gonna confuse myself. Boy, I'm not going to be able to like pick up any loot. There's like too much stuff here. Okay, let's see what we got here. Buy Ring of Protection. I could buy 2 of them. And then, ironically, I'm use my tank with the worst armor class, but she has the most hit points. Also, I'm carrying around a sword, which is stupid, but I don't know what else to do, though, because I have so much loot. The only thing I can even get rid of is the Withered Vine, right? I'm a little bit confused, though. So we have a melee weapon and a missile weapon, 3 rings, armor, and gauntlets. That fills up the entire inventory. Thief doesn't use a shield, so she has the Withered Vine. And the fighter doesn't have... Okay, yeah. This does make sense, but... don't know what to do about this dilemma, except... just ignore... I can ignore most of the treasure I find, because I'm already decked out. Okay, I'll do the explanation of basic Dungeons & Dragons as I walk back to the volcano. So basic Dungeons & Dragons was levels 1 through 3. And part of why we end up with such a weird THAC0 system in basic Dungeons & Dragons is that you never improve your THAC0. That is your to hit matrix bonus, whatever. So levels 1 through 3, everybody hits the same rate. That's not quite right. I'll put it this way, nobody improves how well they hit. I'll put it that way. So you gain more hit points, you gain more spells if you're a caster, but your to hit bonus never goes up. Expert. Let me think about this. Expert, I think, went up to level 9. So, and like literally, if you were playing a campaign, you just start off with basic and then be like, oh, we hit level 3, now what? It's like, well, now I gotta go buy the expert book. So expert book allowed you to go to level 9, let you do, it showed you more spells, gave you more enemies, and I get a little bit confused here because I was mixing and matching different editions of basic Dungeons & Dragons. So I had, I don't remember the author's name, but I had the basic one with the red book, and then there was like characters sloshing through some water and some monster coming up out of the water. But in the expert book I had, the cover was done by Larry Elmore, who has a very distinct style. The knight fighting a dragon. Those were not the same editions, although the rules were all pretty well the same. And then I never got Companion, what was it? Companion Master Immortals. I never got those separately. I just bought the Rules Cyclopedia. So I don't know exactly what Companion and Expert added exactly. But I do know in the Rules Cyclopedia, level 9 was not the cap. It went all the way up to level 36 for the human classes. But then it was like, there's kind of this weird thing, like level 9 became this big thing because that's what you got to after the expert book was done. And so they call that name level. And in basic D&D, if you got to 9th level, typically you became like a lord of a domain. Like you owned land. And you were sort of expected to settle down, although eventually they came up with rules where you could like still adventure. And do like how far the thief can move. The rest of my team is so slow because I have plate mail. So anyway, level 9 is this big thing, name level, blah, blah, blah. And then as they try to figure out how to balance the demi-humans, so one of the things they did to balance the elf, for example, is that the elf takes a ridiculous amount of XP to gain a level. One of the things they did was to say, oh, well, humans have more potential. Especially since like elves could live for hundreds of years, or like we have to have some sort of a cap here, otherwise, you know, logically all the elves would be running around at level 36 just smashing all the humans. Game mechanics and lore don't always go hand in hand. So they said, okay, well, demi-humans can only go to level 9. And then one of the later books are like, okay, but they realize, you know, sure they realize all the people playing elves and dwarves and stuff are like, well, this is lame because all my friends playing human characters keep advancing, but we're not. So then what? And so then you get, oh, well, now you go up ranks. So then it became like, it was just kind of confusing. Okay, so level 9, you don't get to go up levels anymore, but now you're going up ranks if you're an elf or a dwarf or halfling. It was like, okay, or you could just let them go up levels still. But that's just kind of how they chose to deal with things. Honestly, basic Dungeons and Dragons, and sorry to my, if there's any European people who played it and loved that edition. There's still a lot of people who play, gosh, what do they call that? I mean, they said Beck Me is one way to say it, but there's still people who play that fashion because they don't like 5th edition, and that's fine. But the lore, especially, but also the rules of basic D&D definitely felt really slapped together. Like, they wrote the basic book, and then they wrote the expert book, and then they wrote the companion book, and then they wrote the master's book. Like, not necessarily with this, like, overall vision in mind. And it leads to some really weird, like, oh, this author thought the game should go this way, and this author thought the game should go this way. And I think that really plays out in the lore. I think I mentioned, I played an entire campaign in the Grand Duchy of Karamikos, which is basically where it's the setting of, like, ouch. Dragon actually got a hit in on me. It's the setting of basic D&D and expert, basically, where it's very, you know, typical medieval fantasy, but the names are kind of a mix of the Phaeacian kind of Roman / Byzantine names, and then more Slavic names of like the local people. So yeah, basically just imagine your stereotypical Western medieval fantasy with a lot of either kind of Roman sounding names or Slavic sounding names. But then it's like, oh, by the way, if you go over these mountains, there's the kingdom of elves, and this is what the elves are like. And it's like, oh, and then if you go over here, there's like a kingdom of orcs, and this is what the orcs are like. And then if you go over here, this is where the halflings are, and this is what they're like. And each time they, and these were released as books, they're called gazetteers. And then each time a gazetteer was released, the world got a little weirder. I remember I had the gazetteer for I think it was a gazetteer. Can't remember if it was a gazetteer or if it was they had another term for this one, but it was the sea people. And you could play as, I don't even remember the names of all these. You could be a giant, like a sea giant. You could be like shark people. You could be like all sorts of weird stuff. And they had rules for it. And you're like, this world keeps getting weirder and weirder, because I thought I was in a world where I was like, oh, it's just plain old medieval fantasy with Slavic names and Roman names. And then suddenly I've got shark people. So if those Slavic people ever got in a boat and set sail, they might encounter shark people. And that's just kind of the way it was. Like, so I ended up buying the Grand Duchy of Karamikos, and I made an entire campaign out of it. I think I mentioned that before. And it was pretty epic. It's actually one of my favorite campaigns I ever ran, because I bought the Gazetteer. I read about the history about these three great heroes: the Wise King, the Priestess, and Zerchev the Huntsman. Those Halav, Petra, and Zerchev. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have three characters that are these three great heroes reborn. And then each of them, I'm going to say that the three great heroes had these artifacts, and that they're scattered across the Grand Duchy of Karamikos. And so that's what I did, is I took the map of Karamikos, I came up with 12 artifacts, I scattered them across the map. I had an introductory adventures. Actually, I did keep in the Borderlands. But the cleric got the kill. But, so keep on the Borderlands. Oops. Missed. There. Keeping the Borderlands was adventure B2, B for basic, 2 for the number. B1 was not up to, I don't know if it was Gary Gygax's ideas or somebody else's, but wasn't up to their ideas. So B1 was de-emphasized, and B2 became the beginner adventure in basic Dungeons and Dragons. And it's like, you show up to this keep, it has like stats for all the NPCs. None of them have personalities, because that was not a thing back then. It has like shop inventories. It has like rumors, half of which were false, just there to troll the players, which was kind of a weird decision in my opinion. There's like a infamous one of like, Briark means I surrender in Kobold or something. And at one point you fight kobolds and they yell Briark, but actually they're like calling for reinforcements. So anyway, yeah, you have this keep on the Borderlands and all this stuff in it. And then there's a map of the Caves of Chaos, and it's just like a bunch of caves, the dungeon layout for them, the monsters that fill up, and their stats, and then like that's it. Like, you were expected that you would go in there, this cave has like 20 orcs, go deal with that. if you try to fight them toe to toe, you just get slaughtered, especially because you're level 1, because it's an introductory adventure. I don't know if anybody really knew what to do with this adventure. Especially, again, basic Dungeons and Dragons. Like, if you were a thief, you had 4 hit points at the most, you know? Anyway, I took that adventure, actually kept the same layout and everything, but what I did was a bunch of gnolls from the Caves of Chaos, which I was, you know, to me, they were the beastmen of legend. A bunch of gnolls had attacked a nearby town that the main characters are from, and they had kidnapped Yelena, who was an NPC, but she was Petra reborn. The gnolls kidnapped her, and you discover that she's actually the daughter of the town wise woman and this man that was actually this evil wizard. And so, like, necromancer or something. And so he came back for her now that she's an adult to kind of corrupt her and put her under his power or something. But also because he found this magic item that was attuned to her. And so he kind of does the thing where you take over your apprentice and corrupt them and everything. And the magic item that was attuned to her actually got corrupted too. But when the players defeated him, she cried and her tears kind of wiped the necklace. It was a necklace, this artifact. Like, wiped it clean so it was pure again. And then they're like, okay, we have this powerful artifact. So then they go to, I feel like it's called Kelvin. It's, I can't quite remember if it's Kelvin. Is it Kelvin or Threshold? I don't remember. They go to, I feel like it's Kelvin. There's this walled city not too far from the Keep in the Borderlands. And there they find a scholar and they're asking him about the artifact. And of course they have to have a side adventure while the scholar is doing his research. And as they are expanding the walls, because the city is growing beyond the walls, they just excavated and discovered that there's this giant tomb like right next to the city. And they're like, oh, we need to be careful. Like, this is a Dungeons and Dragons world, and there's a tomb. Like, we need to seal this up and, you know, make sure we have all the right people, you know, like wizards and priests and stuff, like, ready to go. Like, but then there's these NPCs that are thieves that end up kind of being antagonists in the long run, but they sneak past and basically awaken an undead army. And so the players have to go, like, fight. Actually, they basically, like, okay, well, undead are usually directed by somebody or something. So they slip by the army, and they go into the tomb, and they find this lich. And it's a beastman lich. Like, all these enemies are beastmen. Well, undead beastmen. And so they end up... Looks like I'm leveling up this time. This campaign was so much fun, by the way. I know my friend Kellen, who's in the campaign, listens to these videos sometimes, so shout out to Kellen and Ian and Chad. Oops, Cleric got the kill. I love this campaign so much. It went on forever. And we were in college, and I wasn't, I don't think I was working full-time yet, so... I don't know why I'm resting, but okay. But yeah, so anyway, they managed to defeat the Lich, and kind of the bone I threw is that, like, okay, it just woke up, so it's weak, you know? Also, we were playing my own homebrew rules, because I do that. I just invent... See, and then elf is max level at 10. Expert D&D, it would have been 9. Whatever. Okay, well, it's time to level up the other ones. Cleric's really far behind. Wait. Oh, good. Okay, all of them are level 9, though, so I don't have to worry about rolling for hit points anymore. Get the cleric up while I tell you about my campaign. So yeah, I was doing my homebrew rules, and yes, I'm always writing my own homebrew rules. I'm just a creative person. I just never, even if I were to play 5th edition, which I did for a while, I ended up creating my own homebrew rules, mostly around the feats, because I think the feats as they are way too broken. And my players, I think, really had a lot of fun with what I did there, but I don't have the time anymore to come up with these big old storylines. So lately, when I play 5th edition, it's like, you know, we did Rise of the Rune Lords, but in 5th edition, and it's mostly just, you know, a little bit of story and a lot of combat, but my players seem to be into it. Anyway, trying to get this cleric to level up. My own homebrew rules, yes. So they defeat this lich, and then in the aftermath, this scholar has done all the research and is like, okay, yeah, these artifacts belonged to the 3 heroes of legend. And then for each artifact that they hadn't discovered yet, because the necklace was one of them, you'll like... I don't think there was one in that town with the lich. Anyway, for each of the remaining treasures, basically I handed them the map and I gave them a bunch of clues. And they're like, okay. And like some of the artifacts, you know, is a little bit easier. I think the clue they started with was Zerchev, the huntsman, left his... I remember this. I think it was his cloak. He left his cloak, his magic cloak, with the elves, it said. So the players went to the nearest elf settlement they could to go ask them about it. And the elves put them... oh my gosh, I can't remember his name. Ian's character's name was something. Dimitri, I think. No. Was it? Maybe. Anyway, the guy that was Zerchev reborn, I think it was Dimitri. Sounds wrong though. Put him through this trial to see if he was worthy to get the artifact that Zerchev left the elves. And he passes the trial, and they hand him a bow, and he goes, "Oh, I came here for the cloak." And the elves are like, "Oh, we never got the cloak." And so they are like, "But it says, the legends say that the elves got the cloak." And they go, "Well, we're not the only elves in Karamikos." So then they're like, "Oh, we'll go to the other elves." And they had different names, I don't remember, but the other elves were much more reclusive. So basically one tribe of elves made friends with Karamikos and the humans, and the other tribe became more reclusive and retreated to their little valley or whatever it was. So then it's like, okay, they go off to the valley. Hey, gain a level. I'm not even really going to stop. I don't think. I'm just going to keep going. Where else am I going to get to tell a story? So they go to the other elves, and turns out, the crazy thing about this campaign was I was like watching a lot of like, oh, this is weird. I go to the library and I check out DVDs about like folklore. And so I went through a lot of like European and specifically Slavic folklore, and I'd like find ideas and I'd work them into the adventures. So that kind of colored what some of the adventures were like. Anyway, when they get there, all of the elves are like not there, like they're just straight up missing. But then there's like this spring with this like jug for water next to it, and this like ghostly woman keeps appearing to this character in search of, I'm just gonna say Dimitri. I think his name is Dimitri. This ghostly woman keeps appearing. Eventually, Dimitri realizes he has to take the jug of water and give her the water. When he does so, she turns back into an actual elf. And then the elf reveals that she and her people were basically turned into ghosts by this evil witch that took over. And so then they need to go fight this witch, and the rest of the elves can be restored. And then this ended up being like the love interest for Dimitri as well. Now, I also just loved coming up with like cool scenes. I was very much into the rule of cool. So they climb this tower, they get to the top, and the witch is just sitting there in this big stone throne, just basically trash talks them as they come in. They're like, all right, let's go then. And she kind of like ducks off the side of the throne and hides behind it, and the throne stands up, and it turns out that it was actually this like animated stone guardian that she's using as a throne. So they're getting their butts kicked by this like stone statue that's come to life, while she's blasting them with magic and whatever. And then there was one guy with the group, Master Drum, played by Kellen, who just gets like blasted off the side of the tower and apparently falls to his death. And the rest of the players are just like, damn, that was cold. But the fun thing about Master Drum was that he wasn't one of the heroes reborn, so he didn't have any artifacts attuned to him, but instead he basically got a minor magic item like every adventure. And he didn't always know what they did right away, always. And so at one point he picked up a cloak. So when he gets thrown off the side of the tower, he had a little magic cat with him also, which I'll talk about in a little bit, because that was awesome. And the cat starts pawing at his backpack, and he pulls out the cloak, and the cloak basically is a magic parachute. So he just kind of opens up, and he just glides down to the ground. So when the other players come down from the top of the tower, he's just chilling at the bottom, like, hey, what took you guys so long? So yeah, he was always finding magic items. And the cat actually was part of one of those magic items. So the cat came with a flute. In fact, he bought the cat in a market from a mysterious person, of course. And the cat came like in a bird cage and had a flute with it. Master Drum was basically the bard of the group. So he's like, and there was, I left breadcrumbs, like, yeah, this is definitely a magic flute, and the cat has something to do with it. So he's like, okay. So he goes hurrying back to his room at the inn to go explore this. And basically, he starts playing the flute, and the cat shapeshifts, depending on what song he plays. And so the first one he plays like, turns into a mouse or something. Oops. Wrong person got the kill. That was a complete waste. And he's like, oh my gosh. And he stops playing, and it turns back into a cat. And he's like, I wonder what else I could turn this cat into. So he rolls again and gets the equivalent of a critical hit in these rolls. And the cat turns into a dragon, and we're talking like full-size dragon. So Birdcage explodes, and Master Drum like stops playing. So the cat turns back into a cat, and of course, one of the other players hears this like crashing noise and comes over, and there's like completely smashed Birdcage with this like calm cat like licking itself in the middle of it, and a very disturbed looking Master Drum. Let's see, what level is the cleric? 11. Yeah, we got several to go here. Oof. There. So anyway, Master Drum had a shape-shifting cat, and basically the harder, like the better he played, the more powerful the creature it became. Yeah, he had so many magic items. He had a sack that could produce bread and cheese without end, so they never were wanting for food. At one point, he got a broom that just swept. Like, that's just all it did. Like, you just told the broom to sweep, and it would sweep. And I'm sure he did something creative with it at some point. I know you tried to use it to flirt on girls at one point. There's like some serving girl, and he's like, "Hey, I can have my broom sweep for you, so you don't need to do that." But yeah, the cat I think was his most powerful item. Meanwhile, the others had very traditional things. So like, Mikhail, I think, was the character who was Hollow Reborn. There was an armor, a shield, a sword, and a mace. Petra was basically the cleric, and she had a robe, a necklace, a staff, and I can't think of what the other thing would have been. Oh, there was a bell. The bell could banish evil spirits and undead and whatnot. And then Zerchev Reborn had a bow, a spear, a cloak, and then there was a pendant that allowed him to shapeshift into any animal or take on different aspects. Like, you could go into bear mode and he would get like more strength and stuff. And then yeah, it was a pretty fun campaign. I'm running out of things to talk about here. Might be a good time for me to do a break in the video. I think you get the gist. This is what I'm doing. Yeah, it's gonna be a little while, so I'll go ahead and put a break in the video, and see you in a bit or next video or something.